Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you here. Welcome to the first European Gaming Quarterly Meetup. It's nice to be back. This is the first quarterly meetup this year we are hosting for the European gaming community, and we are happy to have you here. Today, there was supposed to be another moderator moderating this session today, but unfortunately, could not make it. So I'm taking the role right now to address the questions for the experts we have on the panel today. Today we are going to focus on some jurisdictions that are not related one to another, only in the sphere of the gambling industry. And we are going to talk about Latvia, Austria, Lithuania, Germany, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we have a special input coming in about the Serbian gambling industry, which is a surprise. Since I have seen that Lazar Mucin is also in this call, it would be great to get an opinion about and an update about Serbia as well. So I would like to, and we also have Zlatan who will be joining us. He is just logging in. So I will present to you the official panelists that are joining us today, and then I will also introduce Lazar. So today we have Anne-Marie Furtschegger. She's a public affairs consultant. Hi, Anne-Marie. Nice to see you.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. We also have Dainis Niedra, Chief Operating Officer at Enlabs, part of Entain. Hi, Dainis. Nice to see you.
Hi, Zoltan. Hi, everybody.
All right, and we have Zlatan Omerspahić, who will be joining us in a moment. But since Lazar Mucin is also here, I would like to get his opinion first about Serbia, because he has to leave in 10 minutes. So Lazar, it's nice to see you. Let's just do a short introduction about yourself and just let us know what's happening in Serbia.
I adore these moments, it's 1 a.m. my time. I'm in San Francisco, California, and thank you, Zoltan, for inviting me to jump in. Anyway, I'm waiting for another meeting, so I'm super glad to follow you guys. So for the people who do not know me, I don't know how many people are there they don't know me. My name is Lazar Mucin. I'm coming originally from Serbia, and I'm in the gambling industry for more than 15 years. And I'm a co-founder and CEO of an iGaming advisor company who is specialized in consultancy in iGaming, mostly retention, aggregation, and casino-related things. So regarding Serbia, because I'm new for the topic regarding Serbia, and let's call it the Balkan region. It's pretty much popular region now. We have a colleague here from Entain. They just bought last year, 6 months ago, Supersport from Croatia it was a huge acquisition in the region. And first of all, it's really hot topic, hot region as always. I always wanted to, and I was always speaking, especially on your panels, Zoltan, that and explaining that Balkan is one of the most competitive markets. I will give you an example. So in Serbia, you have 6.5 population for living there, and you have 25 licenses for online, 25, but actually 15 of those are really working good, and they're big with a huge retail. And these, let's say, bottom 10s are smaller companies, just some of them went to online just to have it. If we compare it to Romania, where you have 25, I believe, on 21 million, you will see how huge competitive market it is. Not only, as I said, Serbia, but it's the same in the region. In Croatia, they did a limit of number of licensing. So you have 10 or 11 online licensing, and they're opening tender in every, 5 or 6 years, so that they can add one additional operator. So what to say? I'm glad that Balkan markets are being more and more regulated from year to year, that more companies are coming, as we now have, Entain went to Croatia, probably they are looking for someone in Serbia. There are for sure companies that can be acquired there that are big and that are tier 1 and leaders. So that's the perspective. What is there and what is different comparing to Latvia, for an example? I was working in Latvia for many years, and I know and I have understanding of Baltic market as well. In Latvia, we have sports betting that it's like 10 or 15% comparing to casino. But in Serbia or in the Balkan region, things are a bit different. So it was years ago, like 25 years ago, it was casino only market. Then sports betting came and it started like growing rapidly. But then now once again, casino is taking over. So the moment difference is 50-50 between casino and sportsbook, depends on the country. For example, in Croatia is already more than 50 for casino, like 50 something, let's call it 55. In Serbia is 50-50. In Romania, still sportsbook is a bit better than casino. So these are the trends, completely different than everywhere else in Europe, especially. As we know, casino, sports betting, it is popular, but casino is just growing. It's just a trend. So I don't have anything like more important to say for the market, but I'm glad that things are rolling on that way. And what we can see there are just new and top quality of the platforms, and the industry is really rapidly growing. And the main reason is that certification is being done on an easier way. And it's also being done from an operator side. So the regulators are, let's say, faster. They can do bigger batches, like you can do a batch of 100 games to certify, and it's really going fast and it's not so expensive. That is also the reason why some of the companies are still considering Serbia or Bosnia like non-regulated markets, and they're putting them under .com because they do not care about certification. They do not care about extra licensing like we have in class 2 in Romania or similar. So good markets, really huge potential. Many people in the industry, including you, Zoltan, are coming from Balkans. So many people are coming from Balkans in general, and this is just something that is going to come.
All right. So thank you so much for your input, and thank you for jumping so quickly into this session. All right. So in the meantime, Zlatan has also joined us. He's going to talk later about the Bosnian market. So Annie, I would like to start with you because I know that you have to leave at 11 o'clock, and there are so much topics to talk about in Germany and Austria. But let's kick off things by doing a short introduction of yourself, and then let's dive into Germany.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Zoltan, for having me and for contributing to your panels on a regular basis. I am working in the iGaming sector for also quite a couple of years for different iGaming companies, but also for the Portuguese Trade Association. And currently I'm advising a couple of clients on certain regulatory issues when it comes to iGaming in particular.
All right, so Germany, there's slots approval, and everything around slots is very crazy at the moment, because we know that we will cover this in Prague as well on a panel. So as far as we know,
it's exactly the opposite what Lasse said about Serbia and Bosnia.
Yeah, as far as we know, every game needs an individual approval, right? And since the 1st of January, the Joint Regulatory Authority, the GGL, is up and running and granting some licenses. And but in regards to the slots licenses, operators are facing some issues already. So could you explain further what's happening and what's going on there?
Well, I mean, Germany was very creative when drafting the final law, and there are very interesting, partially very interesting and partially very burdensome provisions in the legislation. And when it comes to slots, they are very specific, always under the umbrella to increase the measures to protect customers. To which extent this does make sense remains to be seen. When it comes to slots, each and every game needs individual approval. So one has also to apply for each and every game, i.e. let's say game A has been approved for operator A, game A needs approval also for operator B and C and so on. This is partially explainable, and the regulator also explained it, because it's not only about checking whether the slot game complies with all provisions, but also how it is implemented on the website, whether, for instance, the term casino hasn't been used because it is not allowed to be used in the context of slots. Then also how the game rules are implemented and displayed are very specific. And then, of course, the games itself have a lot of provisions, such as no jackpots, no automatic play, no display of balance in credits, €1 stake limit. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you well.
€1 stake limit, then one spin per 5 seconds. So there are really many different rules and regulations in place. And this led to a backlog of approval of several thousand slots. And that, of course, makes operators nervous who already hold a slot license, and operators who have to compete still against the illegal market, because the full operations are just short term, and the regulator still needs to speed up also activities around enforcement. So operators are not too happy with the situation right now.
All right. So yeah, Germany has been complicated since they were drafting the law, and now it's even more complicated since in force. So yeah, let's talk about also before I head to Dainis and Zlatan. Let's talk about the enforcement activities, like illegal offers. There have been news that the GGL said that they would particularly focus on enforcement against illegal operators. And are there any measures that have been already taken or already working or not working maybe?
Well, in theory, the law also foresees IP blocking, payment blocking, the cooperation with tax authorities. So there are really a broad range of options, and they already also requested IP blocks. But it's not as easy as that when it comes to the illegal offer, because the regulator is in charge of the licensed operators in particular. But they also already announced that they would set up a public prosecutor's office, which would then exclusively focus on enforcement. So I'm pretty sure they will be here very active, which is also logical, because the law has so many provisions. The regulator has the responsibility to also protect the licensed operators against the illegal offer. From my experience, over time anyway, customers tend to favor always the local licensed offer because they feel safer. If there is any dispute, they can go to local courts. So over time, I don't think this will be such a big issue, but right at the beginning, it is definitely still an issue in Germany.
All right. So the next question is going to be for Dainis, but you should pay attention because you also like questions about responsible gaming, about RG. So Dainis, I know that Entain is very much focused on responsible gaming. I know that for certain from Martin Lichka, who has been always talking at our conferences. And let's talk about Lithuania, because there are some RG related challenges there. After the latest changes in the regulation. Could you tell us more about it? What's happening in Lithuania when it comes to RG?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, unfortunately, I had no chance to say thank you to Lazar, who was like mentioning Entain and the Super Sport acquisition. Yes, so
yeah, and also before you do the reply to the question, also introduce yourself because some of the people might not know you.
yeah, name is Dainis. Yeah, as Zoltan already introduced me. Yes, so chief operating for the Entain in the region. Yes, so Baltics and Nordics. Yeah, we'll be involved in some part with like the Balkans as well. Yes, so we'll support the Super Sport guys with some things to the business development. Yes, so that's why we'll be in Zagreb. It's in a couple of weeks here for the first time. Yeah, so yeah, and I was hoping to argue a bit with Lazar, yeah, who's saying that the Balkans are super competitive markets. Yeah, mentioning like 20 licenses per 6 million of people living there. Yeah, just like we have in Latvia less than 2 million, I believe 1.8 as the latest stats, and 18 active licenses. Yeah, so
Also,
that's a bit different landscape. Yeah, and neighboring Estonia, who has like I believe 1.5 millions of people living there, and 40 licenses, and half of them are actives. Actives meaning that they are like marketing Estonia, so they try to get the customers from this market. Yeah, because like the people who used to work or work with the Estonian license know that it's kind of like MGA license. Yes, so you can do the business outside of the whole market and with the very low tax rates. Yeah, but yeah, answering your question regarding the RG challenges, yes, so the responsible gambling, that's one of the, I believe, key pillars for the future development of the group. For the Entain, yes, so we talk a lot and we do a lot, yeah, because usually, you know, when it comes to the RG, usually, and especially like back in the days, it was more like a teenage sex, yes, so a lot of people talk about that, but no one really does, yes, so
exactly.
yeah, so but now like even every single hour, like quarterly report coming from the Entain, every single presentation coming from the CEO or from the board, yeah, we talk a lot about RG, yeah, because like for our business, for our industry, RG, that's the part of the sustainability, yeah, so that's the way how you can build a sustainable business, yeah, so you understand that by being responsible to your players, that's the only way how you can make a long-term business within the regulated market. Yeah, and one of the major things when it comes to RG, then you have to have an opportunity to talk to the customers, yeah, to educate them, to explain them what are the risks, where do we see the problems, where do we see the red flags, etc., etc. But with the changes that came into force back in the days in Lithuania, we as an operator, we have two different licenses, two different brands working in that market. We are not able to communicate with the players whatsoever. Yes, so it doesn't matter what do we want to say. It's completely forbidden. That's a pure full ban on any communication. Yes, so we can't even send an email to the customer saying that please set the limits for your sessions, yeah, or for your deposits, or please review your behavior, etc., or to call to the customers. The regulator sees this as the way how we remind about ourselves, about the brand, and the way how we force players to gamble more. So this kind of conflict we're facing, and unfortunately for now, it's still not solved. And the Lithuania remains the only market within the region where like the RG is not on the full split, or let's say it's not even present at all. Yes, so nothing we can do about. Yes, so we can't set all the automated flows. So we can't make some manual checkups, etc., because like by the end of the day, we still cannot contact the customer and ask him to make some changes or movements from his end. But when it's too late, then yeah, for sure that we can make the changes from our end to block or to froze the account. But that's not the way how we want to work.
Yeah, and that's communication is key in responsible gaming. And yeah, hopefully things will get better because we have Mare Balticum coming up in Riga in May. So hopefully we will have the regulator there, and hopefully these questions will be answered and something will move forward. And what you think about that?
About? Oh. Did you mean me? No.
Yeah. What do you think about the situation in Lithuania?
I have no particular opinion about Lithuania. As far as I am aware, taxes are going to be increased there, right?
Dainis?
We are already paying like 20% from the GGR. Yes, so I'm not sure that no one knows. Yeah, but these taxes are, like what's the average GGR tax rates across the markets? This 20% is way higher than in any neighboring markets. Yes, so and it was like the latest changes came up into force last year. So
So there
I
are
want to be more positive.
there are no increases in Lithuania to be expected.
This huge increase that we faced last year was a big surprise for everybody. Yeah, because like the market was still, let's say, in the situation when a lot of operators, they were facing the problems was the from the COVID. Yeah, because like there was like agreement to reduce the marketing communication, etc. And a lot of operators who do online business, they still have offline presence, etc. So there was like big negative effect on the general business coming from the COVID, and the operators were expecting that the government and the regulator will support the business one way or another. Yeah, and then there was discussion about raising the taxes from like 10 to 12 to 12 to 15, and then finally the discussion ended up like with 20% GGR tax, which is like enormously high. Yeah, and I believe that's in general for the market, that's quite a high barrier to entry, because like Lithuania being the biggest market in the Baltics from the population perspective or from the GGR perspective. If you talk about Lithuania, there is no GGR since there is no bonuses. Yes, so you can't give any bonuses to the players. So there is only NGR in the market. So that's the biggest market in the Baltics, but it has like the smallest number of the licenses. Yes, so there are like less than 10 active licenses on the market. Yes, so that shows that this market is not that attractive for the operators to come. Yeah, like if you take Estonia or Latvia, like every next year, 1, 2, 3 new licenses are coming. When you take Lithuania, there were, I believe, like for the past 3-4 years, were only like a few of them.
Yeah. So, and I was referring to the RG topic because, as you heard, in Lithuania they cannot communicate with their players because it's forbidden by the law. So
I heard that, and I understand Dainis' view on it. It's always responsible gambling communication can be, of course, seen as a kind of indirect promotion, but at the same time, education is everything. And so I think this is definitely something that should be allowed, because we cannot behave as if gambling didn't exist in societies. And to explain the issue and inform is, as we discussed also in other panels, that's probably why you asked me, Zoltan. I'm a big fan of education. I think it's the best measure overall when it comes to responsible gambling.
All right, so that's how we wrap up the Germany sector, because there's also lots of RG measures that are very interesting in Germany, and Germany always said that RG is one of the most important goals of the state. So how does Germany tackle RG compared to other jurisdictions? Let's say compared to Lithuania.
Well, Germany again was very creative and inserted provisions that I haven't seen in any other jurisdiction. And I think it could be also a chance and an opportunity, because the regulator already announced some time ago they would really analyze those data they collect through those provisions to see which provisions do really work out, where do customers react, and which impact have those provisions? I mean, just as an example, they have different forms of cooldown periods, or they have very different forms of limit setting. They have different form of self-exclusion, and really a broad range. You have, when it comes to exclusion, you have the immediate exclusion via the panic button, you have the temporary, you have the permanent exclusion, you have the default deposit limit across all operators, you have individual daily, weekly, monthly limits, you have loss limits, you have stake limits, you have deposit limits. So they have really everything that ever existed in place. And in addition, for instance, they ask for different graphic designs for different products. There is a 1 minute cooldown period if one switches from one product to the other. Then, for instance, winnings one made with one product cannot be used for another product during an hour. So there are really a lot of additional measures in place, and it's of course too early to evaluate and assess whether those provisions do make sense, whether they are to a certain extent redundant. But I personally don't think, for instance, you can, if you want to increase your limit, you have to wait for 7 days till it is in fact increased. If I want to gamble today, okay, what will I do? I cannot gamble here. Will I really stop gambling, or will I seek another offer? So very frankly, and also the data, the research data about the percentages of problematic gamblers, of addicted gamblers and so on, they are not particularly higher than in other jurisdictions. And a real addicted gambler will find a way. And those who are vulnerable, of course, they need definitely protection, and hurdles can possibly reduce the amount of gambling. At least it reminds them, because that in principle, those measures are also reminders. Like, for instance, Dainis said, if I send a mail to a customer and tell them which options they have. So it's pretty much the same. And I think reminders are good. But it depends on the amount of activities.
All right, so thank you. We also have, like I told you, Zlatan Omerspahić, head of legal and compliance at NSoft. Zlatan, it's nice to have you back in the industry, because I know you have been gone for a while, but you came back. You're an addicted to the gambling industry, and you came back. So could you do a short introduction about yourself?
Especially good morning to you, Zoltan. Good morning to all participants. It's nice to see you all again here. Yes, especially addicted to betting regulation, because this is something what is every day is more interesting and more interesting. I am in industry more than 4 years. I am a head of legal and compliance department in NSoft, and that is software supplier for betting operators across the more than 40 countries, 40 regulations. So it's very challenging and interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We have communicated every 2 or 3 weeks about certain jurisdictions, so I know your job is very important at NSoft. So could you give some general introduction about the regulatory framework in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Of course, I catched up something what the others are talking about Balkan countries at whole. So definitely we can say that Balkan countries, of course, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, are very interesting from economic and from economic and regulation perspective. I found the information that Bosnia and Herzegovina has the highest number of betting shops per person in Europe. So players in Bosnia and Herzegovina prefer smaller bets. Some they don't even remember afterwards, but participate on online games on chance on daily basis. I will say just like in the rest of countries in the region, the citizens in Bosnia and Herzegovina are fans of sports betting, and according to our regulator, tax administration of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, citizens spent approximately 724 million on sport betting during the last year. So that is a huge amount, definitely. Regarding that is the I say the context of what that betting is really popular and economic perspective. But regarding the regulation, Bosnia and Herzegovina has a complex constitutional system. So it is important to understand that there is no state regulation of gambling, since the country is politically divided into regions. Regulation is not unified, and that is not something what is weird in let's say betting regulation in other countries. We also have some situation like that. Precisely, the country is divided into two federal units and one administrative unit, Brčko district, which don't belong with these two federal units. One is the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Republic of Srpska is another, and they have own gambling laws and regulations, including Brčko district. The administrative unit also have the own gambling laws. In the Republic of Srpska, the law on games of chance is in the Republic of Srpska, and the Republican Gambling Authority, which is part of Ministry of Finance, is the official gambling regulator in Republic of Srpska. The Republican Gambling Authority grants licensing and monitors compliance with the laws and regulations. The same situation is in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will just, for this introduction, to add that online gambling is legal in both the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Republic of Srpska, but only for companies that also have land-based operations.
All right, so this leads me to the next question about licensing and certification requirements for operators and suppliers.
Regarding the Bosnia and Herzegovina, I must say that Republic of Srpska issues gambling license for 5 years, and the requirements are very standard. For example, the company has to be registered in the country. It has to prove sufficient funds to be able to cover players' winnings, and it must prove good conduct of the company founders. Advertisement regulation is also standard, aiming to protect minors. Operators have to ensure their machines, platform, and system are tested and certified by licensed laboratories. That is regarding the certification. So from the perspective of software suppliers, if we want to put any games to operators, we need to pass the process of certification from the licensed laboratories, and in Bosnia and Herzegovina we cannot do that with all laboratories in industry. There is decision which define who has a license to do that certification in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
All right, so thank you so much for these replies. I have all more questions for you, but I will head back now to Dainis to talk about Latvia. What's the situation over there? We covered some reports about the 2021 and 2022 economical reports about the gambling industry. I know it has been down, very much down. Could you tell us more about what's the situation over there, and maybe the gambling advertising law, which is very interesting, maybe an update on that?
Yeah, but like the gambling market was mostly down due to the COVID, yes. So
yeah, exactly.
As you remember, 2020, what was the first year? 2020, yeah.
2020,
even online was down for 2 months, due to some miscommunication in the government when they.
Yeah, that was interesting because I think it's the only jurisdiction in the world that prohibited online gambling.
Yeah, to fight against COVID. Yeah, so that was interesting situation. Yeah, but so there was absolutely no gambling for 2 months, exactly 2 months, and then we got our licenses back. So the market was down mostly due to the fact that the biggest part of the year offline was closed or had some physical limitations in terms of who can come to the slot halls, betting shops, or casinos, in which amounts, etc. So it was quite complicated. 2022, especially the second part and the beginning of the year now, even besides that we having the seasonality, we see that the market is back on track, and even the fourth quarter in 2022 was the best ever for the Latvian online market. Yeah, the numbers of licenses are going up. Yes, so as I mentioned before, we already have like 18 active licenses. So the guys like who are up and running. Yeah, but the biggest challenge still, that's the advertising, marketing, communication, etc. Because like the gambling law as it is, and the base of this gambling law was written in the early 90s when no one had an idea that the online gambling will ever exist. Yes, so no one was aware about the internet in general. Yes, so and the logic from the regulator, the logic for the law was that gambling has no opportunity to advertise whatsoever. Yes, so if you open your casino, that the only way how you can get the customers, that's the traffic that passes your doors. Yes, so you can have like the sign or the light box. And even light box was limited with like some things that you can do and you can't do. So that's the only way how you can get your customers. And then when the online came in, no one ever saw that, okay, you can get the license, you can pay for the license. So for the state is okay to take the money from you, but they still do not let you. So they do not give you an opportunity to let anyone know about the fact that you have a license, about the fact that you are like operating in the country. Yeah, that's why a lot of operators, they are using like some black traffic channels, black PPC, etc. So the market looks quite ugly in terms of how the operators are advertising. And there were like a lot of movements coming like from the local medias who understands that like big budgets are going not going to them. Yes, so passing them by, and they want to keep this money. All the local TV channels, online medias, etc. They're like together with the Latvian Advertising Association, they just forcing the government to review the law and showing them that yes, so the operator is still advertising, but not in the way that it should be. Yes, so they want money to be not into some advertising networks, but for the local media to support the state, to pay the taxes, to be more transparent, more controlled, etc. So yeah, that's the never-ending story for the many years. We're still there, but it seems that for the past few quarters, there is some sort of progress. At least this question is up. Yeah, it's on the table, and it's very sensitive, and no one really understands the problem till the end. Yes, so because like time by time they see like the gambling advertising, and no one understands that by the law everything is forbidden and everything is like should be closed. So that we're trying together with the Latvian Online Gambling Association, trying to talk to the government through the institution together with the regulator to understand what could be like the best way for the new law, for these amendments for the gambling advertising law. Estonia is a nice case when everything is quite clear, what you can do, what is forbidden. Yes, so big focus on the brand communication, no any call to action, like less casino elements. Everything is like So at least you can tell who you are, what you do, but not being super aggressive, being responsible. At least you can show your identity, you can show up your brand, you can pack yourself in the way how you want, but like still staying within some certain red lines. So do not like be irresponsible with your communication, and to not like go deep into some aggressive comms. So fingers crossed. I want to believe that till the end of this year, this question will be solved, and we will live in some more or less clear, transparent landscape when it comes to the marketing communication in Latvia.
All right. Yeah, at least the regulator in Latvia is very communicative, and we really like her. She's going to be at Mare Balticum as well, very open to the ideas every time. But yeah, it all depends on the legislator.
Exactly.
All right. So coming back to Central Europe, we talk about Austria as well. Very interesting. In the past years, there's been a new law or some sort of law. So there's a status of review of the gambling law in light of setting up an independent regulatory authority, a regulator in Austria, finally, after many years. And so around 2 years ago, the government announced a review of the gambling law. So where does that topic stand right now, Anne?
Well, from what I know, nothing is known. 2 years ago, the Minister of Finance, who is still in charge of gambling, announced they would set up an independent authority. They would review, especially in light of responsible gambling, of loot boxes. They explicitly mentioned they would also want to regulate loot boxes. They also said they would like to look into enforcement provisions. To date, nothing happened. And this is particularly interesting in light of the next offline casino tender, which is due in 2027. So such an authority should be set up rather sooner than later in order to be able to handle the next casino tender. Just as a reminder, online casino and poker is under monopoly of the Austrian lotteries, and for online sports bets, there are state licenses available.
All right. So there are some lawsuits in regard to illegal offers in Austria, and one could read in different media that gamblers have sued international operators for their gambling losses. And can you tell us more about why this seems to be something that's very successful in Austria, suing international operators?
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because there are a couple of judgments of the Supreme Court that state EU operators who do not hold a license in Austria are to be considered illegal. And based on that, some law firms made a business case out of it to help gamblers with huge losses to sue international operators to get their money back. And this was so far mainly focused on casino, because there it was in particular clear it's a monopoly. But lately, rumor has it internally also that gamblers start now to sue operators also in regard to sports bets when they do not hold an Austrian license.
But they signed up.
It's mainly so successful because of those judgments, because in Germany, they also tried it, and German courts also said, look, you as a gambler, you need to be informed about what you're doing, and you know that this is not fully legal, so it's your own risk. So there are different approaches in different countries.
And are these cases successful? Are they getting any money back?
Well, this is not published. Yeah, that's not published.
Okay.
As far as I know, of course, there are cases that are simply settled, And as it seems, there must be some success, else the law firms wouldn't continue to sustain those.
So you mentioned the casino tender, the online casino tender, and how about the Austrian lotteries who are holding all the licenses? And do you think that this will change in the future personally?
Well, theoretically, it already changed last time, because originally 12 licenses offline are held by Kazakh, which is part of the Austrian lotteries.
Yeah.
But 3 further licenses were granted in the first step last time. But then the Constitutional Court held that the whole process was not really transparent. And so those licenses were revoked again. Theoretically, operators can apply from the European space if they have a similar business, offline business, somewhere else, so that they can really prove they have the know-how, the expertise, the competence, the money. Then, of course, they have the possibility to apply, but it's quite tricky. And from my personal experience so far, I would say chances are not too high that this is going to change anytime soon. However, we know that meanwhile, the biggest shareholder within this whole kind of state institution is already someone from outside of Austria. So one will see how this develops, also like, for instance, of Finland and Norway. I mean, if those countries also consider a multi-licensing system, then Austria would be pretty much the only one to still stick to a full monopoly for a lot of products. And I think it will become harder and harder to defend, especially in light also of the fact that already an operator of outside is in the state monopoly.
All right. It seems that the Austrian-Hungarian Empire still works, because Hungary is doing the same thing as Austria, opening their markets soon.
Yeah, I think also, as we know, and for instance, the new CEO of Kazakh said in a recent interview, 50% of online casino is still with offshore operators. So it simply doesn't make too much sense. And the products of the monopoly are so good, they do not have to fear competition. And it's just not a modern approach anymore.
Yeah. So do you have any closing remarks? Because I know you have to leave earlier.
Yeah, I have to leave. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to Prague, Zoltan, and have a good conference today.
Thank you so much for your inputs. All right. So, Zlatan, I will come back to you now to see if there are any changes that might be coming up in Bosnia and Herzegovina, maybe the Republika Srpska.
Actually,
Zlatan?
I would like to start with the fact that can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, I will start with the fact that in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have a really outdated regulation. In that law, we even don't have, for example, definition of online casinos. We don't have definition of RNG, and that, if you know, that is a very huge problem, because if you want to certify the games, virtual games, which are based on RNG, it is not possible. So in 2023, you don't have a regulation which had defined RNG. That is really outdated. Regarding the Republic of Srpska, the new law is adopted in March 2019, and brought an increase in tax paid by gamblers to the Republic of Srpska budget, and greater control of payments and payoffs in internet betting. For example, it increased taxes from 15 to 20%, and with the government planning to increase its gambling revenue to 60.7 million approximately. Also, the cost of online casino license has also changed to 55,000 euros. Another novelty is the introduction of international standard in order to protect players. Let me say some good news from that law, but additionally, the law strengthened the role of the public company, Lottery of Republic of Srpska. The Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Srpska has abolished the right to organize electronic games by private organizers, and according to the new law, such games can only be organized by Lottery of Republic of Srpska, which can then independently select another company from the organization of these games. So definitely that is something what is really bad solution in regulations. According to tax, for example, in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have the pay-in tax and winning tax for players. Also, in Republic of Srpska, you have only winning tax, and of course, operators pay 20% of GGR for tax. And definitely, that's something. What is the problem? Problem is that domestic operators cannot be competitive to foreign operators, and players from Bosnia and Herzegovina like to play in the foreign operators or on black operators which are illegally operating they are on blacklist.
All right. So thank you so much. Dainis, maybe you would also like to say as maybe some closing remarks about, would you ever like to see the jurisdictions of Latvia and Lithuania similar to Estonia?
Very provocative question.
Or it
yeah.
would be too boring for you guys.
No, in general, I believe that all two markets are super different. And in Estonia, everything is faster, more simpler, cheaper, more logical, etc. So I believe that's the good example to follow. Yes, so every market has their own problems, but in general, like, so there are good and bad practices, and seeing how Estonia was the growth trend for the market, and how many new licenses, how many new operators are coming, and everyone is happy was how regulator works, how the tax authorities works. So that's the good practice. So if the market follows the bad practice, channelization goes down, and players are not protected, taxes are not paid. By the end of the day, like everyone will lose this game. So like, as an operator, we're not fighting only for our own interest. So by asking from the state or from the regulator, like the transparent rules, logical terms and conditions, same time we protect the interest of the players, interest of the society, higher tax incomes, etc. So that's the common game, where everyone can be like a winner, or we all together can be losers. So very simple.
Thank you for your input, Dainis. We'll see you in May in Riga at
Absolutely.
Baltikum. All right, so Zlatan, you have the opportunity to wrap this session up. What is your closing remark, and what do you expect from the regulation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or particularly the market in 2023?
Definitely I'm expecting more better regulation, since, as I mentioned at the beginning of the end of your first question, we definitely have a huge potential, but some regulatory discrepancies between laws and provisions into these laws are a huge problem for operators and for players also. So I'm definitely what I'm expecting is a better regulation and to catch up all these possibilities and potential which industry in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in, of course, in Balkans countries has. That's for me. I'm looking forward to meet you all in Prague on the next our meet. So it's a pleasure to be here again.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We only have one session, but in 2 weeks we will be back with another session for the quarterly meetup because we are splitting these sessions up a bit. So thank you for joining us and see you soon, everyone.